Okay, what do you do in the event of a home invasion?
Call the police.
Mental breakdown.
Therapist.
"'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through X Mansion was news of the protests, the humans out chantin'. They took to the streets to spread fear and hate, the rhetoric they mimicked from leaders of the state. From inside the academy, Charles Xavier kept steady. They'll learn to accept us. They just aren't ready. We won't poison their blood, harm their children, or worse. We must show them we're good if we just stay the course. On Cyclops, on Gambit, on Storm and Jean Grey, on Logan, on Nightcrawler, Rogue, and Jubilee. From up in the sky, Magneto said, trust. You think these humans give a damn about us? The nightmare before us can end in a hurry. All we need is to show what we can do with our fury. They fight over how to escape living hell, while Beast waits patiently, alone in his cell."
Nicely done.
Welcome to the Arkham Sessions. My name is Dr. Drea Letamendi. I'm here with Brian Ward, my co-host. Typically, we would cover the next episode up in the series, which would be episode 5 of X-Men the Animated Series, but we are going to take a little detour since it is the holiday. It's the season to maybe cover something that's more, I don't know, seasonal,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
And usually, it's not every holiday, but most holidays, I will write us a little poem about the Arkham Sessions and the night before Christmas.
Yeah. And you did not disappoint this year. I should remind folks, I do not hear these prior to hearing them when you read them on air for our listeners. And I have to applaud you on another well done poem this year. This one got pretty in depth, and it painted a little darkness, but then also a little light, a little hope, but then ends with Hank in his cell, because that's where he still is.
Still in jail. So, that's where we are with the X-Men.
By the way, this is our final episode of the season or of the year. And I feel like these seasonal episodes, we should always be, sharing a little Glühwein, a little.
I'm sorry, what?
Glühwein. I guess here it would be mulled wine. It's a sort of European thing, but sure. I feel like having mugs of like a warm, hot Glühwein, mulled wine. This could be one of those episodes. This could be a tradition that we start next year, where last episode of the season we have a little warm, spicy Glühwein, and see how wacky we get over the
what
course
is in Glühwein?
So have you ever had mulled wine? It's usually a dry red wine mixed with a little brandy, some citrus, like an orange spice,
maybe like
spices,
a cinnamon sticks,
anise,
some cranberries.
Not normally. I suppose you could use something like that to garnish. Usually some cloves. It's usually like a spiced red wine with a little bit of brandy mixed in, and you serve it hot, and it's just a perfect little seasonal kick, especially for a show that could be as fun as ours could be if we've been sipping on Glühwein for an episode. And there's also usually like a sweetening, like either honey or maple or some sort of sugar or something to sweeten it a little bit as well. So it's, think of it as a super adult cider.
A bit of a dessert wine. No.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
It's the kind of thing that you would go out to like a Christmas market and and then as you're walking in the streets and enjoying the Christmas market, you've just got a little hot Glühwein, mulled wine.
Well, speaking of Christmas, typically we would continue on in the series. We're about a third of the way through the first season of X-Men, the animated series, but we are taking a pause. And, you know, it is the holiday season, but I do want to play a clip from Josh, one of our listeners.
Okay, let's play that for you now.
I don't know if you guys saw, there's a new Merry Little Batman movie that came out on Amazon, which is, you know, I just feel like it'd probably be good for you guys to review or whatever for Christmas maybe, or, you know, I feel like Brian would probably just get a kick out of it, how basically, if you guys haven't seen it, you know, spoiler alert, but, you know, Batman kind of does what Brian was saying all along, you know, about how, because he has a son, so he's like, well, you know, it's just fun. You guys got to check it out.
Okay, so I have to say that this came after you had already teased that we would be doing something a little special this episode, and it just so coincidentally is exactly what you had planned for us to cover in this episode. And I didn't even know, if you remember last time, I didn't even know that this movie was a thing. You said that it had just come out that week. I don't spend a whole lot of time on social media or you know, perusing the various holiday Warner Brothers movies coming out in any individual week. So I did not know that this movie even existed.
It did kind of sneak up on us.
Yeah.
It just kind of appeared on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
I don't see it anywhere else. I'm not sure if it's
it appears to be an Amazon Prime exclusive. Made in conjunction with Warner Brothers Animation. And it is straight up an animated movie that follows young Damian Wayne as he has been left home alone in Gotham City for Christmas Eve. And it's a little unfair to say he's been left home alone, because he has manipulated his way into being alone for Christmas Eve, but we can get into that later. I do have to say this movie again came as a complete surprise to me, and it was an interesting watch. We you know, 96 minutes of
At the front end here, I'll say it is oriented towards families and kids. I highly recommend it. I'm just going to say before we talk about it, I do recommend it as a family watch. I think it kind of, for me, hits the zone similar to the Lego Batman movie. Just very smartly written, very witty jokes that are for adults and kids, but still very family friendly, very, very youthful. The central character is Damian. He's 8 years old in this film.
8 years old and 4 days.
8 years old and 4 days. And he's very cute and very lively and enthusiastic, and he's very relatable, I think, as a kid.
He's sort of the antithesis of what Damian Wayne actually is in the comics.
Yeah. But
cute,
overall,
relatable, 8 years old, and you find yourself rooting for him. I do not typically root for Damian, do not care for Damian, wish Damian did not exist. I am
wow, that is harsh.
I mean, it's not really. It's a fictional character, so I'm not. I don't feel too bad about it, but I do not like Damian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like this Damian?
No.
Okay.
But for entirely different reasons. Entirely different reasons. This one, I mean, this one did exactly what he needed to do to make the story work, which was so desperately want to be a superhero like his father that he ends up wrecking Christmas for all of Gotham City unintentionally, because he's basically trying to get himself out of trouble, and it gets himself into even more trouble. And that to me is just a kid that needs to spend some time in his room. But
oh no.
But I also found myself sort of in this, maybe it's safe to say that I'm jealous. I'm jealous of someone who can have the lifestyle of a Damian Wayne, someone who grows up in Wayne Manor and has Alfred there to parent him while Bruce is there as his sort of best friend, and gets his run of the house, and his gift is his first Bat utility belt, and just all this stuff. Like I just kept seeing the beginning of this movie and thinking about, like, I had to put myself in a position where I needed to root for the super privileged kid. and so I didn't love Damian in this movie.
And it's true. Let's talk about all the things that Damian has, at least in the beginning of the film. He has a giant home to live in. He has a personal butler. He has his own room, he pretty much has his own run of the entire house, except for the Batcave, which he will soon discover. And he has...
But he knows of the existence of the...
He absolutely knows that his father was Batman. And this is where the story is quite unique.
And he knows his mother is Talia. Like we never see her throughout this movie, but he is aware that his mother is a supervillain.
And so what he also has is a father, Bruce Wayne, who has given up his life of being a superhero
for a very good reason
in Gotham City to essentially be a parent.
But, well, yes, that is the good reason. But really, what it comes down to is he admits that the day that he found out he was going to be a father, he decided to ramp up his game and really clean up Gotham City. And now Gotham City is essentially Metropolis, a clean city. There hasn't been crime in years. Bruce has grown a beard. He is that settled down at this point. And you're right, he has spent the last few years being a father to Damian instead of being a superhero.
And we have to pause on that because it's such a big shift in Batman's lifestyle.
To see, it's funny that you keep referring to him as Batman, because at this point he is straight up Bruce Wayne and has not been in the suit in a long time.
Part of my point, that I think that when he was being Batman was central to his personality, his lifestyle, his way of being, his core values. In fact, so much of our show has been about worrying over how much focus, determination, and kind of like a fixation that Bruce Wayne has on being Batman and not on caring about the people that are close to him, to the degree that he would push people away, that he would delay having a family, that he would be closed off to interpersonal relationships. This was something that was almost like a recurring theme in our show. And
speaking of antitheses, this movie, similar to something else we talked about on our show and exactly what you're talking about, this is the antithesis to Christmas with the Joker.
Absolutely.
The second, where
there were some interesting elements, almost like callbacks to the episode of Christmas with the Joker, but putting a twist on that. Here, it's been 8 years since he's been Batman, and he's made a willing choice to change his lifestyle so that being a parent, having a family, being dependable, raising a child, those are the things that are a part of his value system, not being Batman.
Well, and he is the opposite of the brooding character we've all known. Like in the last few years, he has not just settled down, he has genuinely taken on the tone of being a father. He's almost got that who's it, Jake any other day I could tell you his name, the guy who plays, sort of the schlubby Peter Parker in the Spider-Verse movies. where, he's got sort of a friendly tone to him and sort of a like, look, kid, I've been alive a lot longer, but he's not doing it in a preachy way. He's doing it in a like almost best friend sort of way with Damien, the way that Peter did with Miles in those Spider-Verse movies. Yeah. He's got very much the same tone. And we should say Bruce Wayne / Batman in this movie is played by Luke Wilson, someone that you wouldn't typically think of as playing a Batman character, even through voice. And he doesn't do anything to his voice. So that Luke Wilson voice that and sometimes may love, that's your Bruce Wayne. And he's a very laid back, chill guy. He is not the Bruce Wayne / Batman persona that we have talked about for all these years.
He's so much more grounded. He seems to be done with the secrets, this double life, the alters, and he's not.
I mean, we shouldn't say that he's into, I mean, like, it's not like Gotham City knows who he is. He didn't reveal himself, but he's not
pursuing this double life or pursuing what we would consider this need to fulfill this other side of his personality, the risk-taking, the vulnerability, the anger, the rage, the guilt, the shame, like that's not coming up anymore. And I think too, what I liked about this Batman / I'm just going to keep calling him Batman. What I liked about him is that it's not as if he cast that completely aside. He's kept those lessons. So he's telling Damien, here's what's interesting. It's not that he doesn't want Damien to be a superhero. It's not as if he's saying that was a bad chapter in his life and no one should ever do that and he should never go back to it.
Yeah.
In fact, he's saved the suits. The Batcave is not completely shut down. The vehicles are up and they haven't been used, but they're running. Mm-hmm. So he hasn't closed that off. He's not burned this bridge.
He's still the Batman that plans for the worst case scenario,
just in case,
but is a bit rusty. Like he finds himself, the reason Damien finds himself alone is Batman is tricked into going to Nova Scotia because of some sort of weather anomaly. And even later he's saying to himself, oh, come on, Bruce, this is the oldest villain trick in the book. Like, of course you were set up. So this is a Batman who has let his guard down and is now doing things.
He's kind of been out of practice.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, and I actually wanted to ask you about this. You mentioned that Gotham City has been essentially crime-free for the last 8 years. And so here's what I want to ask you. Bruce Wayne knew he was going to be a parent, raise a kid. So he took it upon himself to...
Has it been 8 years?
Well,
I'm trying to remember.
8.
Right, but if we're going with the understanding that Bruce didn't know Talia was pregnant, was not there for Damien's birth.
Oh, I see. Like he kind of like adopted him later.
Yeah, like we do see in video, in home video,
the baby.
But yeah, he's got like a little toddler behind him who's crawling around unsupervised. But Bruce is still being Batman at that point. Like he's still actively cleaning up Gotham because he's in the uniform. He's built a uniform for Damien should Damien ever grow up to need it.
Well, okay, so here's my hot take on that.
Okay,
is that once he knew he was going to be a parent, he started to essentially he made the decision to end his run as Batman. He didn't make the decision to pass the baton onto someone else. He actually made the decision to end crime and criminal behavior and force villains into retirement or to Arkham or to other facilities at that point, so that he can now turn his attention to being a parent. And so my hot take on that is that maybe it took some time, like a couple of years for him to achieve that. But my question for you is, he knew what to do to so-called clean up the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he do this before?
And I feel like as our listener friend who left us the SpeakPipe message said, this is something we've been saying. This is something that I especially have been saying. He's not very good at his job, mainly because he relies on the job so much that he needs crime to exist in order to justify his own existence. And once a baby becomes an option, he now has a new mission. And I do think that this is the same Bruce. I do think that he has simply shifted his focus to Damian instead of to crime and Gotham. And we even see that he is a little overprotective of Damian. Alfred even believes that Damian is worthy of being, they never mention a previous Robin, but I think Alfred probably sees that Damian is incredibly gifted. He's very strong-willed. He's really athletic and acrobatic. He wants the job. But it's interesting that Bruce is so hell-bent on preventing that kid from ever needing to take on the mantle of Batman that he has not only abandoned Batman, but he is, there's a whole lot here it's an interesting dichotomy. Like, if I wanted to clean up Gotham City to the point that my child would never have to become a vigilante, do I then tell the kid that I was Batman at any given time? Like, would that become fluid information back and forth between us? Like, like this kid knows that his father was a superhero, but he's never known his father as a superhero.
He stopped being Batman when Damian was so young. He wouldn't really have remembered what it was like to have a dad who was a superhero. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Are you saying what's the point?
Superhero, but he's really not anymore and hasn't been for years.
Are you saying what is the point of telling Damian that he was Batman?
Yeah, I think if I were going to write the story and it wouldn't have been a significant difference, I probably just would have had Damian discover that Bruce was Batman, and that, like maybe there had been stories of a Batman, years ago, but
okay, so he knew of a Batman, he just didn't know.
Like the
father
kid,
was.
Like the kid, you could easily play it off as the kid still desperately wants to be a superhero, similar to the Batman that he's always heard stories about. Bruce is like, now those are just stories. Gotham City has always been this fine metropolis of a city, and just look how clean it is. You think one person could just clean up the streets like that? Like, I think if he had played all that down and then went away on this business trip, it would have been one thing, and then the kid could have then discovered that his father was Batman. But instead, you've got a character who is now encouraging his child to be a superhero by telling him he was a superhero. And look, listeners are yelling at me going like, this is a kid's cartoon.
Well, here's why I disagree with you.
Yeah.
I'll first say where I would agree with you on is the reveal would have been so awesome to not only discover the Batcave in the basement of your own house, but to then uncover this video of your dad in the Batman costume saying, I'm Batman.
With you as a toddler behind him.
Yeah, and you will be Batman. So the legacy of that, the great surprise, the reveal, all of that, I think would be really emotionally powerful.
Yeah.
Where I would disagree with you, and this could still work, is that the kid wants to be a superhero so badly. He's putting on the bag over his head as if it's a cowl. He's running around the house with the cat Selena and already pretending to be a superhero. What we understand as the story kind of unfolds is that it's not so much that he wants to be a superhero. He wants to be like his father. He absolutely adores his dad and he just wants to be like him. And it's in what we're hearing throughout the story, and we hear it in the very beginning, and it's kind of like thrown in here and there, is that his father keeps saying, like, being a superhero isn't necessarily that you can fight and kick and punch and like run around the city and be reckless. That's not what this means.
And if anyone can tell us that, it's Batman, right?
Well, those are the lessons learned from Batman. But he's saying, it's really about character. You need to have focus. You need to sacrifice. You need to work hard. These are the values he's trying to instill. And it ends up, what we learn is that Damian doesn't really want to be a superhero because of the ego of it all, or the destructiveness of it all, or even like getting the villains. It's about these values. It's about learning how to focus, learning how to make hard decisions, how to sacrifice, and how to, and yes, they even say have a high threshold for pain.
Well, and we see the cost at one point when Bruce lifts up his shirt and you see just how gnarly his entire body is, done to comical effect. He's twisted and he's broken up every one of his ribs, and you can see that his entire body is just chewed up. And the kid's like, I want to have all my ribs broken too.
I want to be beaten to just an inch of my life as well. It's hard. I think that part of it, especially if you're a parent, is a little, this has always been challenging when Bruce Wayne adopts these kids and indoctrinates them to become young little warriors.
Okay, now we're on to something. Let's talk about that. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake. None of them were his biological children. And he indoctrinated them, turned them into child soldiers. Let's just say for giggles, they existed in this universe.
Yeah.
The kid that gets Batman to really rev it up and take down crime in Gotham City is the promise of a biological child that he probably never expected to ever have in his lifetime. And then he decides Gotham City has to be clean of crime for my kid. What do you think about that?
What are you saying? That it's not until he has a biological child that he cares about the future well-being and welfare of this little one?
Yeah, what does that say about the other kids who have been in his charge? Or are we just assuming in this universe Dick, Jason, and Tim never existed?
I wonder about that, because there aren't, there are multiple suits.
None of them are Robins.
But none of them, you're right. We don't see a Robin suit. So when Damian is in the Batcave, there's 4 suits. There's an old, it's not even the 66 Batman. It's like,
no, it's from the serials from the 30s.
Yeah. Like it's very,
very floppy.
Yes. Yeah, so there's that one. There's the Schumacher one, which is a great joke.
But if we're acknowledging that costume exists, you then have to acknowledge
that there was a Robin.
That
you're right. What we don't see, so there aren't any callbacks or jokes or mentions of any kind of Robin or previous wards, previous sons, nothing. Not even in a grief-like way, because I'd say maybe they're unalive. Maybe they didn't survive this, and that's why that's one of the turning points for Bruce Wayne. We don't know that.
Similarly, we see Commissioner Gordon, but we don't see Barbara at any point. So presumably there was no Batgirl. There is no Bat family in this universe, is the way that I would probably interpret, because then it gets messy. You would think that maybe there would have been a scene where everyone is enjoying Christmas dinner together, and Dick and Jason and Tim and Barbara and Jim and everybody, like they're all just there.
Well, and you're right about the lore of Christmas time for Batman. There's the comics, there's the animated series. Every time, or most times, that we get into the season of the holidays, Bruce Wayne is not in a celebratory mood. Yeah. These are the times that he doubles down into his crime-fighting persona.
Yeah.
He almost gets it's like he's sentimental in a different way. He is a workaholic. He overvalues, over-identifies with his mission and becomes much more emotional, but not about people, not about his family, not about the things that most of us kind of cherish and are thoughtful around.
It's Gotham as an abstract. It's
absolutely,
you know, it's the hope that I can, over the course of tonight, make sure that everyone's Christmas day is fantastic because nothing went wrong, you know, the night before or whatever.
And I have talked about the narcissism with Batman a little bit, and that is one of the elements that has repeatedly come up, especially for something like this. He holds the burden, the responsibility, the self-inflicted charge of taking care of the city. And when the city needs to celebrate, needs to have safety, he's on patrol. He's in protective mode, and he doesn't get to have the things that he's ensuring other people have. Now, so this movie is different in the sense that this is why he turned away from crime fighting. He wants to have that for the holidays, and he sees that Damian is ready to be a superhero, and he's trying to delay that more and more because he believes he's just too young. He's not ready. It will happen in time, but just not now. So he's showing us that his goal for the holidays is to spend it with Alfred and Damian, is to be very family-centered, family-oriented.
Which again is the opposite of Christmas with the Joker, when all Dick wanted to do was sit down and watch It's a Wonderful Life. And Bruce is like, no, it's time to put our gear on and go patrol. We've got to make sure, you know, and then he becomes hyper vigilant and almost takes down a person that he believes is mugging an old woman, but really that person is returning the lady's purse or whatever. And he is the opposite of that version. You know who's not the opposite? The Joker.
Mm-hmm.
As we established in Christmas with the Joker really just wants companionship. He wants to have that family atmosphere at Christmas time. He wants to know that he is loved, and he wants to other people in his really weird way to know that he loves them. Exact same motivation for this Joker. It's been years. He's forgotten how much joy he had, not in committing the crimes, but for doing it almost for the relationship that it gave him with Batman. And so he has united the supervillains of Gotham, the Rogues Gallery, specifically Penguin, Poison Ivy, Bane, and Mr. Freeze. And he has devised this brilliant plan to get Bruce out of Gotham so that Joker can steal all the Christmas presents. Very Grinch-like.
I was going to say, it reminded me of the Grinch.
Yeah.
In that he's not doing it himself, but he's sending these new henchmen to go around house by house and steal the gifts and all the, the Christmas valuables, and ruin Christmas that way.
Yeah. But it turns out that Christmas is ruined by Damian, because Damian goes out to retrieve the gift he was given by his father, his utility belt, that was stolen by these henchmen. And in doing so, mass destruction throughout Gotham City. which plays on the Batman persona. You know, we've said it before, Batman himself will wreck Gotham City just because he has his sights narrowed on one person that he's chasing.
He doesn't see, in speaking of Batman, he doesn't see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And this movie, you know, again, going back to the beginning, is so interesting because he knows how to see the bigger picture. He knows how to they literally show him literally cleaning up the streets with a street sweeper, as if to say every aspect of improving the city can happen through the financial resources that Bruce Wayne has.
Yeah.
And all of these different aspects of the support, the facilities, the maintenance, the type of things that they were lacking, including the literal sweeping of the streets, can happen. And that's his big picture thinking. He has the capacity to do that. And he takes care of it. He ensures that the people in Arkham stay in Arkham. He ensures that the people who are not meeting criteria to get to Arkham are sent into retirement, that they don't have the means to do the things that they were doing to cause destruction and mayhem.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Also, by the way, wouldn't the Joker be in Arkham? The fact that the Joker sort of retires into his house is so interesting.
Or escaped at some point. I mean, we do see,
we forgot about him.
We do see during the course of the flashback to Bruce cleaning up Gotham City that he is literally waiting outside Arkham on a nightly basis for whichever villain is going to try to escape that night. Like, we see him basically pummel Scarecrow simply because he got out the gate. And so Batman has now hyper focused on, okay, what do I need to do to keep them inside? And as is mentioned, they are eventually forced into retirement. There is nothing they can do from this point forward that he's not going to just cut off because he now has responsibilities as a father.
And I want to say too, like, the city looks different. It's brightly colored.
Well, we see it during the day.
Yeah.
We don't normally see it during the day. And now
people are enjoying the safety of the city. They're out in the streets. They're doing normal things. They're living with the security that they're not going to be in danger. I noticed I don't know if it was just the lens I have, but I was noticing some like Burton-esque highlights and nods. I don't know if it was the art style or just the character design. Some things just sort of reminded me
very cartoonish, very
like the angles, the sharpness, the vehicle. When we saw the Batmobile, it looked so different. It was very, very old timey, and it's a different city to live in. And I would imagine that Bruce is quite proud of himself. But all of his pride, it seems to be, is directed toward raising a kid. And I think, yes, you're right. We're left with the tension of knowing that this kid is going to go into the profession and the lifestyle that his dad was in. And it's really
I don't think that that's true. I clearly Batman created a suit in case it was needed.
Mm-hmm.
But Bruce appears so dead set on making sure Gotham is never a place that requires Batman. I think he is one of those parents, as many are, who say that they are going to ensure that their children had a life better than theirs. You know, I don't think it is Bruce's expectation that Damian become Batman. I think it was Bruce's expectation that Batman would not be necessary. And in fact, there's one line of dialogue that really struck me, and I've got it here. I want to play it. It's a moment where Damian is sort of lamenting not being able to be a superhero. He's already gotten himself into trouble.
Okay.
And Alfred delivers this very important line about his father and his father's motivations that I think is probably what's going to resonate with me after the movie is over. Let's take a listen here.
I just wanted to be Batman so bad. Maybe if Dad didn't treat me like such a baby.
Don't be so hard on your father. He can overdo it sometimes, but that's because he's trying to protect the one thing you have that he never did. A childhood.
So Bruce is actively, instead of training a kid to go and fight crime every night, he is trying to make sure this child never has to put on that costume. And so, I would say that makes him a good father, a great father, much to Damian's chagrin. He can't wait to put that costume on.
So explain, what is your explanation? What is your understanding of the fact that he not only built the suit for Damian, but also programmed this, what is called the Bat Dad, which is a computer, an AI system that will
basically Jarvis.
Yeah, it's a companion. It's a computer companion that Damian will rely on to help him solve problems and use discernment and get out of trouble as he's Batman.
Yeah, and it's programmed with Bruce's memory and mind and voice and all of that. It's very simple. When we first see the video that introduces the suit and the Bat Dad companion, Bruce says, if you're watching this video, I'm dead. So of course he would create something, because in that situation, Batman was still needed and does not exist. He is dead. So he comes right out and says, if you're watching this video and you're putting on this suit, it means I'm not here. And so, yeah, I don't blame him for creating, again, that contingency, because that's what Batman does. He's got a contingency for everything. I just think it was done with the desire of never having to have Damian look at that video or put on that suit.
And, when we get to know, a lot of this is getting to know Damian through his conversations with Bat Dad, not necessarily Bruce Wayne, but the computer that's been programmed to essentially be a simulation of his father. And at this point, he's pursuing some of these villains. He's got his eyes set on the utility belt that he received as a Christmas gift, and first felt so guilty that he had, because he kind of got into trouble and lost it. Like his father set it aside and said, "You're not ready for this," and then sent Alfred to get marshmallows, got it, and then it was stolen by these henchmen. So he's deep into trouble. As he's pursuing Belt, he's having conversations with the computer version of his father, and he's kind of going through some of the similar experiences that Batman went through, like going to Gotham Zoo to look for the Penguin, and getting stuck in parades, trying to take down the Joker, all these things that are very familiar Batman tropes. And in these conversations, he's kind of learning more about what he truly wants. And, again, what it means to be a hero authentically, not because you get to wear a cool suit, you have a cool utility belt, you get to be admired, but more around, again, that sense of character. You're hugely dependable. You can't make many mistakes. You are in very risky situations. And he gets advice from Bat Dad. There's a scene, I think it's in the zoo, that I'd like you to play, where he's realizing the responsibilities of being a superhero. And kind of forgets that Bruce didn't have his parents for very long.
Yeah.
And can you play that one?
Sure thing. Here we go.
Getting your belt back won't prove anything to your dad.
Maybe you think it won't, but I know it will. It has to. Being Batman alongside my dad is all I've ever wanted. I have to show Dad I can handle myself. He worries way too much. He still makes me wear floaties. In the bathtub! I mean, come on, I'm not a baby.
Indeed, you are not a baby.
You have been alive for 8 years.
And 4 days.
I like this place. My memory matrix recalls visiting many times with my parents. I miss doing that with them.
Why'd they stop taking? Oh, right.
Yes, right.
And we've talked about this a little bit before, but what I like about this conversation is that Bruce is acknowledging that through parenthood, he can have some, it's truly about taking care of his son, but there's also something reparative with him, knowing, you don't have to be alone like I was alone. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be put in a position where you are afraid like I was. Yeah. You don't have to live your life searching desperately for purpose. Yeah. I'm here with you. And if this is your purpose, I'll help you. And there's that, again, that sense of trying to, in a very healthy way, undo the harm that he experienced. And I say it's healthy because, and again, this is all programming, so it's kind of indirect, but this bad dad computer is a construct of Bruce's mind. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. I liked this exchange because it was essentially saying, what I went through was not okay. And it wasn't my fault. And I have how can I be responsible for mending that on my own? But what I can do, what I do have agency around and what I do have control around is being a good parent to you and making sure you can trust me and depend on me and giving you safety. And that's what this back computer is meant to do.
Yeah. By the way, the back computer too, we will talk about the fact that it is a construct of Bruce's mind. He's basically input his entire personality into this computer. And one of the 3 tenets of being a good superhero is the willingness to make sacrifices. And the Bat Dad, in an effort to save Damian from a high fall, uses the last of its power to sacrifice itself for Damian. This is also, by extension, the willingness, the lengths to which Bruce would go to protect his son. Mm-hmm. And that plays a very powerful message for Damian, because Damian basically sees Bat Dad as a best friend over the course of that night. He is genuinely distraught over its loss. Meanwhile, we, the audience, are well aware that Bruce could just go whip up a version 2.0 in the next suit for Damian. But it is basically like losing his father. But again, because it's an extension of his own father's personality, that is Bruce saying, this is what I would do for you if necessary. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a good moment.
I like that too.
I don't want to get into too many of the other characters because they are all sort of very superficial.
They are. I'll say a couple of things. They are one-dimensional and they rely on you knowing who they are.
Yeah.
Poison Ivy has a few lines, a few actions here using her, her roots, all of her organic tree-like, root-like weapons.
And this is an old poison ivy, we should say. Like it's
Well,
been
they're all-
it's been a
yeah.
while. It's
So-
been a
so
while
they're
since
all-
any of them have really done anything.
They're all up in their years.
Mhm.
And so Penguin is much older and in a scooter. He's not ambulatory. He's not able to do some of the things that he used to do. The Joker is
The Joker.
youthful in that he's just as energetic, just as maniacal, and just as fervent as always. But the age is there. He's also he's not the one going into these homes and stealing. He's sending other people to do that. He's keeping a close-knit circle. And he says, we're kind of jumping toward the end, but he admits that what he really enjoys about all these antics is that he can be around other people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that he was missing the most.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed when we think it's not necessarily a precursor or prequel when we think about Christmas with the Joker. But if we are to think that that's what the Joker was like, he craves being around people.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is whereas so much of the story and the characterization is like Batman is the opposite of Christmas with the Joker, he is consistent.
Yeah.
It's still the same motivation. I just want to be around people.
And that's why he creates destructive situations. The Joker's mayhem has a function. The reason that he engages in mayhem and destruction and chaos is that it brings people close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that he lacks. He's not able to get that in any other way. That's how he knows to be close to people. Batman especially, he loves being around Batman. He feels like they're similar. He feels like they are both very unique, kind of freaky people, like not like other people. And they kind of belong together.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I think the Lego Batman movie attended to that better.
Yeah.
I'd say if you haven't seen the Lego Batman movie, go watch that.
I highly preferred the Lego Batman movie to this one.
It's much, I mean, let's just say what we know to be true. It's better written. It's it's clearly a better developed movie, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah.
This is a cute Christmas movie. It
serves its purpose.
Yeah. It's a little predictable, but it's fun, and you see characters you recognize, and it's showing you a different light of Gotham. It's showing you a different light of some of the characters because they're a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we need to necessarily talk about the ending and give it away, but what I will say is that what the Joker eventually wants to do is recruit little Damien, because the Joker notices that Damien seems to have the energy, the behavior, some kind of like even oppositional tendencies that makes the Joker feel like, yeah, I feel like you're one of us. You are a villain.
Yeah, because the kid's destructive. He has a natural inclination for wrecking things. The only thing, and this is where the Joker is wrong, is that that's all accidental. It's all because he's an 8-year-old boy who hasn't figured out how to focus his aggression on anything and his reckless behavior.
We know that he's got a pure heart.
Yes.
I do like about the Joker's the assertion here, the climax of this film, is that we do see this sinister side to Joker come through, where he's preying on this little kid. Like he lures him to their hideout, and they create this giant Christmas snow globe house within a snow globe with all of the Christmas stuff that they've all stolen. And he invites Damien to this Christmas party, and there he can have his utility belt, and it's all souped up with bombs and destructive things that he can use. And he tries to convince Damien that he's going to belong with them. Like he's going to feel like, you don't have to worry about being told no. You don't have to worry about feeling like you're not sure what you're supposed to be. Because remember, Damien is going through a quest or a pursuit of better understanding. How can I actually be a superhero? I don't feel like I'm a superhero. I keep mucking things up. And the Joker is essentially saying, you're not mucking things up. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing because you are a villain and you can be with us.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that little bit of dangerousness, that sinister aspect that's brought up. And
it is interesting. You keep referring to it as sinister, and like at no point in time during any of these conversations did I see it as malevolent. Like it wasn't a.
Oh, you didn't find that? I think that what I'm saying is like he's an 8-year-old boy.
Yeah,
and this like guy is saying, you should be with us.
Yeah, but I didn't see it as I saw it. I see what you're saying.
Like I'm going to take you away from your family.
Yes, in another world, this would have been Pinocchio. This would have been like the little circus that they go to, and everyone becomes jackasses and whatever. But in this particular case, I think it's just the Joker seeing himself in someone else. And being able to recognize the quote unquote gifts that this kid naturally has, and the fact that it's counterintuitive for him to try so hard to be something he isn't, which is a hero.
Well, what you're saying is that it's not a trick. It's what he believes.
Yeah, I think he genuinely believes it. I don't think he's trying to steal Damien away from his family. I think he simply revels in, he's one of us. He recognizes him. And he's like,
Can I say that it's almost as if he's fulfilling the wishes that he has with Batman through Batman's son, Damien. I want the closeness, the bonding, the togetherness, the you and I are the sameness with Batman, and I get to have it with a kid who's just like him, but he's more vulnerable because he's 8 years old. So I sort of am agreeing with you, but also pointing out how disturbing that kind of is.
Yeah. There is another movie later that we will discuss at some point.
Oh, okay.
Because we can't hold it off forever, but there is another movie later where I feel like this also comes into play. Specifically the Joker with another little version of himself to some degree.
Okay, I think
and a closeness to Batman.
Wait, do I know what you're talking about?
Don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. We've not discussed it. I don't know what you have and haven't seen of it, but this is something I have seen many years ago, but it's something that we've talked about covering at some point.
Okay.
But yeah.
And so yes, I agree with you that there's this authentic connection that he has with this kid. And the reason I'm saying it's uncomfortable, it's disturbing, because it's coming from a place of wanting this child to engage in really malicious things with the group of supervillains. And of course, the movie ends with Damien overcoming that. He doesn't join the supervillains, but it takes some partnering up with his dad to best them. And there's some lessons learned, and there's even toward the very, very end some genuine empathy for the villains who have lost their purpose and who, of course, are going to be incarcerated. They've broken a lot of laws here, but they also deserve kindness and Christmas joy. And while they are still considered villains, they're human.
Yeah. So it sounds like you enjoyed this movie.
I did. It was fun. I'm not going to see it again. I don't think it's a movie I will put in the VCR every Christmas season, but I do recommend it. I'll say for folks who like the animated series. This is something that.
Sorry, for a moment, I'm just looking for our VCR. Just trying to figure out what you're putting in the VCR every year. Yeah, but I see what you're saying.
It's you don't convert all of your films.
Yeah.
Home media is really important.
It is. It is.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was super cute. It was festive. It's a good Christmas movie. And again, it's a good family movie. And if you have Amazon Prime, why not? Yeah, enjoy it with some hot chocolate, some marshmallows, or what did you call it?
Glühwein?
Grumvine.
Or mulled wine. Yes. Yes. Grab some of that and some hot chocolate, especially the hot chocolate with the extra marshmallows, which plays very importantly into the story. I thought the movie was fine. It was fine. I thought it was a little long. This is a story that you probably could have done in 44 minutes, like a 44-minute episode of something. Didn't need to be 96. But
I also, there is some Santa stuff.
And you're really uncomfortable.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the show, but I don't like Santa.
I know you don't.
And I don't care to watch movies that have Santa in them. And I stay away from movies where Santa is the central character.
Now
we don't need to break it down. That's all I need to say.
But let's talk about the fact that, just in case anyone else has this same problem, Santa is not a main character in this movie. Santa Claus is not even really a character in this movie. Right. There is a mall Santa that is especially what you're disinterested in. There is a mall Santa in Gotham City who gets a few shots of.
And let me be clear about my feelings, my prejudice towards Santa.
Yeah. Break it down, Drea.
Whether it's the real Santa or a fake Santa, I don't like it.
I understand. By the way, folks listening, it has taken 26 years, but I just finished a screenplay that I have been mulling over for the better part of 3 decades, where Santa Claus is a major character. And Drea has no interest in it whatsoever. It just makes me. Could we talk about what kind of a year we have had?
It's as if I feel like this year was about doing some of the things that we were unable to do or delayed doing.
Yeah.
Either because of, financial reasons, time, availability, but also COVID. Yeah. And so it really did feel almost like we had the ability to actually go to these events and have some recreational time. And, I think also that some of this is about taking time off of the more traditional work responsibilities. You and I have other types of projects that we love working on, and we both had a chance to step away from our traditional 9 to 5 and do other things. There's actually something upcoming in later December. I'm not even sure if, maybe this will air right around the same time.
If we're talking about the same thing, or if we're thinking about the same thing.
Yeah, one of your big projects is about to come out. And so that's a huge
I'm told it will be Christmas Eve. So by the time this episode drops, the day before, really, this should have also dropped on the internet. So
okay.
Pay attention to our socials, because I don't know that I'm really allowed to say anything until it officially drops. But you and I got to do something really cool together, really just last week. I mean, it wasn't even... it's not even like we've been waiting 6 months to talk about this. Like, we just did this, and it's turning around super fast. So we're very excited to talk about that. Maybe we'll actually talk about it on the next episode, that first episode in January, where we get to break down, or maybe we make that a Patreon story or something. So if you have any interest in hearing about this really cool thing that you're about to see online in the next day or two, come join us over at Patreon. That's patreon.com/Arkham Sessions. Drea, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you online?
You can find me online. Well, I'm pausing because I'm trying to figure out how to say, find me on TikTok. Because guess what? I'm finally using TikTok.
Yeah. Finally. I mean, geez, I've been trying to get you to use TikTok.
I know.
I'm not, because I don't have to.
Yeah, we aren't really video based. And so now that we're creating videos more, I've thought, hey, I'm going to put it on TikTok. So I'm Dr. Drea. I think the username is at Drea Letamendi. Find me there. Of course, find me on Instagram, Dr. Drea Psychology. Find me on my website, drdreapsychology.com. I also want to say, for folks who are wanting more community and like want to engage more, talk to other listeners, talk to us more, you can join our Discord. Just go to the Arkham Sessions Instagram.
And that's what I was going to say
in the bio.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is we started that this year as well.
The Discord.
Yeah.
We launched that this year. I also want to say to folks who around this time of year feel a little more lonely, a little more isolated, maybe their seasonal depression is kicking in, maybe something occurred in their life, an event or a loss that's making them feel like the holidays are just a little extra heavy. We are with you. Whether you're listening to our shows, you're joining our Discord, you're tuning in for our new stuff, I really just want to put my voice out there and say that you matter, you belong. I'm so grateful that you're here. And if you do need to talk to someone, call 988. That's the Lifeline here in the U.S. Or if you're not in the U.S., Google Lifeline in the country you're in and you'll find it. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for an amazing year.
Thank you all. You can find me online. I am at @B_Ward028 on Instagram. And then you can find us on Twitter at Arkham Sessions and on Instagram at The Arkham Sessions. Email us at arkhamsessions@gmail.com. Come follow us on Facebook. Come join Discord, as we noted, and patreon.com/Arkham Sessions. Join our family over at Fanbase Press and check out their other podcasts, as well as their news and their comics themselves. And we look forward to having many more conversations in 2024. Until then, I'm Brian Ward.
I'm Dr. Drea Letamendi.
And together we are
The Arkham Sessions.
Ending transmission. Kapow!
Pow!